that period. I don't know what the workings of that is, but it seems a bit of a farcical situation, doesn't it? That they're paying for a player who can't play yet, and that's counted under the salary cap still at the moment. That seems strange. So there's stuff to sort out there. Other stuff to sort out for Toronto. What about the fine that's been handed out this week?
So yeah, Toronto Wolfpack have been fined £5,000 after Brian McDermott failed to turn up for a post-match press conference. The fine, £4,500 of which has been suspended, comes after McDermott didn't fulfil his club's obligation of attending a press conference. Toronto apologised for the incident, putting it down to a genuine misunderstanding, and I've no reason not to take them at the word on that. So it's cost them £500, and no doubt they'll be very careful not to mess it up again.
Yeah, Tom Andrews got in touch and said, hopefully they don't forget to pay it, forget in inverted commas. Obviously, that's one of the other question marks around the Wolfpack, and I understand one of the things that Noble felt towards the Wolfpack could be dealt with a bit more professionally is some of the things where they have delayed making payments or not quite met their obligations in the way that they've been expected to over the years as well. So that's a joke around that area, but there's it's clearly been taken seriously. And the looming situation of another £4,500 probably does make them realise that any misunderstandings will be addressed in future. An experienced Super League coach should know that he's supposed to go and speak to the media, though, I think.
Yeah, I wonder whether it was just a misunderstanding about where he was supposed to rock up. It was an away game, wasn't it? Was it after the Warrington game?
It was the Salford game. The Salford defeat, yeah.
It could just have been a not understanding where he was supposed to be. Let's be kind on this particular occasion. I'm pretty sure that they won't let it happen again anyway.
Yeah, and actually reminding us that it was the Salford game's a nice segue into the next news item, where Salford have signed back rower Oliver Roberts on a season-long loan from Huddersfield. The 25-year-old has made 95 appearances for the Giants since making his debut back in 2015. He's also earned 5 caps for Ireland internationally.
And in more Salford news, the Red Devils have parted company with prop Adam Walker. The Super League club has announced Walker, 29, joined Salford at the start of 2019 and helped them reach the grand final, which they lost to St Helens. The club and player have reached a mutual agreement that will see him leave the club with immediate effect following a change in his personal circumstances. He will continue to receive the club's support throughout this transition, said a club statement. Idea what...
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I've no idea what that means. I mean, he's obviously had quite a bit of ups and downs of his personal life over the last few years.
Yeah, when Salford picked him up, obviously he was kind of out of the game for a drugs ban, wasn't he, at the time?
That's right.
And
That's right.
They picked him up off the scrap heap. Obviously, we have to respect that there's something going on there, and I think it's a positive that if there's something that the player needs support with, that whilst the club have had to part ways with him in terms of him being a squad asset, they're certainly still treating him as a human being and helping him support there. If that's the case, that's a positive, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Leeds Rhinos winter signing Cruz Leeming is facing up to 4 months out after undergoing knee surgery. Leeming, who's 24, suffered the injury in training before Christmas. He's yet to make his Rhinos debut since joining them from Huddersfield Giants. That's a big blow for the young hooker there. Certainly he was hoping to make an impact on the Super League in a Leeds Rhinos shirt, and things have not gone his way, so good luck in his recovery from injury.
Indeed. Wakefield Trinity Centre, Joe Arundel will miss the remainder of the Super League season after rupturing an ACL in last Friday's defeat by his former club Castleford. Trinity will also be without utility back Ryan Hampshire for 6 weeks after he fractured his jaw in the same game. They're not having much luck at the moment, Trin and their players, are they? They've picked up quite a lot of injuries relatively early in the season.
Yeah, that's a big double. Like Arundel seemed hurt in the game, didn't he? He ploughed on.
Yeah.
If I remember right, it was at Cass last year that he got his season-ending injury as well. I think, was it when he was scoring a try? He did his knee then in that game. At Easter, I think it might have been. So he will not enjoy the jungle. Joe Arundel, good, hopefully he can recover and find his way back into Super League after another serious injury. The Hampshire incident as well. I do vaguely remember him holding his face during the game, but it's not as serious an injury. They'll be looking to get him back because, of course, they're already without Danny Brough at halfback, so they're already shorn of numbers there. So will be interesting to see how they put a side together for this weekend's action. Couple of stories from today. The first one of those is a Super League injury news story. Hull KR hooker Matt Parcell will be out for the next 2 months with an ankle injury. Talking to people who have got bad luck with injuries since he's joined Hull KR, he's barely able to get on the field, isn't he? The 27-year-old was hurt in Friday night's loss to the Huddersfield Giants and will need an operation after damaging his ankle ligaments. So that's a big blow to Hull KR, one of their star men. And another piece of news, this signing, Leeds Rhinos have signed England forward Joe Greenwood on a 2-month loan from Wigan Warriors. The 26-year-old, who joined Wigan from NRL side Gold Coast in June 2018, has not played for the Warriors this season. Meanwhile, Rhinos centre Rhys Evans has returned to Bradford on a 1-month loan deal. The Wales international joined Leeds from the Bulls in the off-season, but has now returned to the Dewsbury Bradford side. So Joe Greenwood obviously is a player who's played for both of our clubs, Wigan and St Helens, on the move again to Leeds Rhinos. I don't know what you've seen of Joe Greenwood over the last year or so.
I mean, obviously when he was at Saints, he was. I felt he was a really promising young player. We were very, very disappointed when he left the club to go to Gold Coast. He started well, I thought, at Gold Coast, but he just seemed to vanish off the scene.
Yeah, it was a change of coach, I think. I just think Garth Brennan didn't like the English players that had been signed,
Yeah. And then he came back changed his shape between leaving Saints and arriving at Wigan. He was much bigger build. Part of that's just he was very young when he left Saints, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's quite grown into his body though, or because he looks a little bit more sluggish to me. But I don't know whether his injury has sort of knocked him back a bit, Mark, and he's not quite recovered from that.
From the Wigan perspective, he started pretty well. He had a fantastic game at St Helens in his first season when he joined the club mid-season. Last year, he had a string of concussion injuries. Most notably, people will probably remember the one at Magic Weekend when Joe Philbin ran into him, basically, and really, it really did knock him. And that string of injuries, I don't think he quite got his mindset back right. And then once Liam Farrell was fit to come back into the side for the second half of the season, he just wasn't winning his place back in the starting lineup at that stage from either Farrell or Willie Isa. So he's found himself a little bit on the outside. He's a well-paid player, as far as I gather, for a player who was not playing regular first team. I think a change of scenery might be good. If things go well for him, I think he's got a chance to either earn the respect back at Wigan to get him into that matchday 17 if he comes back from this loan period, or earn a longer term deal with the Leeds Rhinos, who themselves have had some injury problems in the second row and the back row there. So someone else to fill in those gaps might be something that they will enjoy. I mean, it should be a good strike side, that side, with Greenwood and Hurrell next to each other running lines in attack. Whether the defence side of things there is going to be as robust, but I think it seems like a sensible deal all round for a player who needed a change of scenery. What's happening down in the Championship?
So Oldham have signed winger Ryan Ince on a 1-month loan deal from Lee. The 23-year-old arrived at the Centurions in the off-season from Widnes, but he's yet to make his competitive debut for the club.
The thing I took from that is Ryan Ince is 23. I'd have guessed 20. Anyway.
Really? Right, there you go.
And a couple of League One signings that we'll just whiz through. London Scholars have announced the signing of Australian hooker Ryan Kane on a 1-year deal, and Newcastle have re-signed Samoa international Matthew Wright for the 2020 League One season as well. Thanks for those people who got their views in. Make sure you do look for the Google form for sending us your views on the week's news. You'll find the link to it in the blog post. The link never changes, but the stories for you to comment on do change. And of course, if there's a story you want to talk to us about that isn't on the form, you can still put in your views on those stories. Tell us what stories they are, and we will cover them in the show, as long as they're about rugby league. Anyway, so thanks for that. We'll now move on to the World Club Challenge match review. Right, it was Saturday night. It was a big light show and then a big show on the pitch, as it was St Helens against the Roosters. The best that we could offer against the best that they could offer. It was 8 points to 6 to the Roosters at half time. Very close game at that stage. The Roosters did finish 20 points to 12 winners in front of 16,018. Chris Kendall was the referee for this one. We've got some individual stats that we'll run through before we get into your fan reviews on this one. So Daniel Tupu had 1 try, 136 metres and 3 clean breaks. James Tedesco, who seemed like he had a quiet game but actually still racked up 114 running metres. Jake Friend, who didn't seem to have a quiet game, he was yapping away all the way through, and I'm sure you'll talk about him later on, David. But he did make 48 tackles, so he did work hard in between those chats with the referee. And Victor Radley with 40 tackles and 104 metres, and probably the game-breaking pass, although it wasn't directly the try assist in that second half for the Keary try. For St Helens, impressive throughout the game in all his stints was Alex Walmsley, and he delivered with a try and 172 metres. Tommy Makinson had 103 metres and Zeb Tyre had 100 metres. Do you want to give us the first of the fan reviews? And no shock who delivered this one to us, David.
Yeah, no shock, it was Carsten as usual. Jake Friend with his best Cam Smith impersonation. Keary butchering his teammate after a strong Saints effort made this a real contest for 80 minutes. Outstanding game, but it shows once again the NRL is a step ahead.
Cav said, great match. I knew Saints would come out with high intensity and make a game of it first half, and they didn't disappoint. I had thought they'd drop off second half, but they never did. They kept up the intensity, fight and passion for the whole match. Roosters' superior skill won out in the end. Great advert for rugby league.
Alan Walker said, good pre-season run out for the Roosters. Would be nice if this was a real match as the pinnacle of the club game after the grand finals and not a trial game before the real action starts.
I don't think the Roosters treated this like a trial.
It feels like a trial game from where I was stood anyway. There you go.
AK Steel 69 said, Johnny Lomax is the real spoiler of Super League. Put a spoiler on a rear spoiler of Super League. Put a spoiler on a Porsche and it'll go faster and perform better. Put a spoiler on a Kia and it makes it slightly more aesthetically pleasing, but really makes no fucking difference. Farge was Saints' best pivot. Too often, Saints defenders were left behind the play and the ball, and they blew too many chances to win it this standard. Roosters just too good.
Mm-hmm. POB 1976 said the difference in class show between the Super League and the NRL. The amount of metres made by the Roosters compared to Saints was far superior. It wasn't actually POB 1976, but it was a bit better.
Yeah, it was 100 metres more, but from 14 carries less. I haven't worked out what the per carry.
Yeah, most of the first half as well, I think.
Yeah.
They were much, much better, I thought, in the first half with the ball.
Malcolm Matias said, Trent at the touchscreen should be a series on its own. Hear to that.
Yeah, he was really good, wasn't he? Very, very interesting.
He was great all week, actually.